welcome, or for those of you who are at earlier sessions in the week, welcome back. My name is Adam Sassler, and I am the Vice President for Sustainability Programs at Plexus Logistics International, and I'm the facilitator for this afternoon's meeting. I'll come back in a little bit, but in a second I will call up Ms. Judith Ink, the Regional Administrator for US EPA Region 2. Come on up and welcome our guests.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to today's public meeting. We're very happy to be in Binghamton and in beautiful Bergen County. We had a really good session on Monday. We did 2 4-hour sessions, and we're able to get all the speakers in and heard very informed viewpoints from people who support drilling, people who are opposed, the rare bird who has no opinion on drilling, and people were incredibly thoughtful and substantive in their comments, and we expect that we'll have the same positive experience today. My name is Judith Ink, and I'm the Regional Administrator for EPA Region 2, which includes New York, the 8 federally recognized Indian nations in New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And we're here today to discuss a key element of our nation's clean energy future, natural gas. Specifically, we're here to talk about one way to access natural gas, which is hydraulic fracturing. Many of you in the room are familiar with the process of horizontal drilling, high-volume fracturing, although it's not currently underway here in New York State. It was pioneered in Fort Worth, Texas, and is underway in other areas of the country. And ours are asking serious questions about whether the process of hydraulic fracturing is damaging their drinking water and in the process damaging human health and the environment. Here in New York State, the Department of Environmental Conservation, DEC, is the state agency responsible for regulating production and development of oil and gas resources within the state. In September of last year, they released for public review a draft environmental impact statement, which examines the environmental impacts of potential hydrofracking here in New York. And more than 14,000 people, organizations, and businesses offered public comment on that document.
People for a healthy environment and a private citizen.
This is the most important issue which the EPA will ever examine. My own experience with natural gas drilling is a perfect paradigm that proves even with all the regulations in place, the appropriate agencies and personnel on duty, and the best procedures carefully delineated, a single individual can easily wreak havoc despite those rules, regulations, and safeguards. We had a new home built in Chemung County in 1995. The house is located 1.5 miles up a dirt road and adjacent to a former Girl Scout camp in a lovely and serene setting. Thus, we were deeply disappointed when the private owners of the camp allowed a natural gas well to be drilled. However, we were delighted when the well did not produce and was declared temporarily abandoned and soon dismantled. Hence, we were amazed a few months later to see a fully loaded brine tanker headed to the abandoned well site, only to return in a few minutes without its brine load. After we reported the illegal dumping, the DEC investigator was informed by the trucker that he was dumping at the camp since the permitted site he normally used was closed for the weekend. So we've sold our dream house on the hill because even everyone adjacent to our property has signed gas leases. It might seem overcautious to some, but we did not want to gamble that our well water might be polluted with a chemical cocktail. We did not want to risk that all our home's equity could be gone in a second due to deliberate or accidental actions, be it an illegal dumping, a poorly designed cement casing, an unexpected blowout, or methane migration. Scott and I are older and can live with this disappointment, but now our concern is whether future generations, our nieces and nephews, can live with the choices you make concerning hydrofracking. It is within your power to protect their air, their water, their land, and their very lives. And you should not take this charge lightly or with regard for anything other than their safety and the safety of our planet. The financial gains, no matter how large, are nothing compared with the future health of those young people and everyone dependent on our environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 437 is Ms. Marian Rose.
Good afternoon. I'm a director of the Croton Watershed Clean Water Coalition. Our mission and goal is to protect and improve the sources of our drinking water in New York State. In over 10 years of intense activity, our organization has never encountered a greater threat to drinking water than the proposed fracking for natural gas in New York State's Marcellus Shale. One of the worst threats comes from deep underground, from where chemicals and radioactive materials that have been safely isolated for hundreds of millions of years are regurgitated to the surface with the frac fluid. A main component is radium-226. It decays very slowly into radon and emits particles that are extremely dangerous when ingested or inhaled. Radium-226 is a carcinogen that can cause leukemia. New York State DEC informs us that this frac fluid in New York State contains levels of radium-226 that are 267 times the limit safe for discharge into the environment, and thousands, yes, thousands of times the limit safe for people to drink. Radium-226 is especially dangerous for children. Incredibly, this terrifying threat is scarcely addressed in the innumerable studies and reports, not even in the DSGIS. Yet, according to the American Institute of Pediatrics, studies suggest that radiation exposure during childhood is associated with a greater risk of cancer than is exposure at other ages. Look at the aerial pictures of mile upon mile of frac pads interspersed with homes a couple of hundred feet away or less, near open pits where this lethal brew of frac fluids from the depth of the earth is being stored. As a mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, I would never want my family raised in such surroundings. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 438 is Mr. John Cuomo, a member of the Tioga Coalition.
Thank you. Environmental protection is a primary goal to be achieved by facts, not politics or fear, and not flawed studies, and on a singular basis as prescribed by Congress. Information regarding gas migration into the water wells in endemic Pennsylvania has been incompletely reported. Many wells in the area that claim to have been affected by current gas drilling have had gas in their water for decades from shale formations above the water table. This has no bearing on the Marcellus Formation, which is thousands of feet below the water table. For new gas drilling, all water wells within a specified distance of new gas wells must be tested before and after drilling. Natural gas is the transition fuel which must be harvested now to allow time for development of renewable energy. According to Syracuse University hydrology professor Donald Siegel, switching to natural gas, the cleanest of fossil fuels, will cut carbon dioxide emissions by 17%. Hydraulic fracturing is taking place in New York State now in vertical wells and has been used for decades throughout the nation with insignificant negative effects. Professor Siegel also said hydrofracking opponents have dispensed with science and rely on fear to turn the public against drilling. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation's supplemental environmental impact study has nearly complete after thousands of man-hours have been expended. No new action should be considered until the results are released. New economic data reveals that 1 in 7 families are considered poor. The increase in humanitarian assistance that has taken place in Pennsylvania has made a significant difference to the poor, locally, regionally, and beyond. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. I think we're skipping over to number 441, Richard Kreznar.
The gas oil companies have to contribute to a superfund dedicated to gas drilling operations. They haven't since 1995. When something goes wrong now, it is up to individuals or the government to fix the problem. It is difficult and expensive to get compensation from the industry. This is not fair. Historically, the full cost of damages is not paid by the industry. The industry made it a priority to get exempted from paying into the Superfund. The industry must cover the total cost of each drilling activity, similar to a landlord holding security until the tenant's obligations are fulfilled. The industry would be forced to be much more careful. It would also eliminate finding the party, as more leases are bought by foreign companies. An ombudsman should be appointed to tap into this fund on behalf of the citizens. Consider the $1 million plus needed for road repair in tiny Coshocton, New York, resulting from the Millennium Pipeline construction. They were told, here is $500,000, sue for the rest. Consider individuals with contaminated water. They were told, take this settlement and the accompanying gag order. The cost to industry would be more, but the cost to the government, which is us, would be less. As the expenses of gas drilling is shifted to the gas drilling companies, renewables would become competitive. Looking at it another way, if the gas oil companies paid their own costs, and if they didn't continue to get 20% of all federal government subsidies, every building in America would have its own solar, wind, or hydropower. Our need for fossil fuel would be decreased by what, 30%? America could build, use, and export our green products. We would all come out ahead. Instead of 5-acre well pads, have 5-acre solar or wind farms. This is America. We can do this. Are we dreamers?
Sir.
No, we are realistic. Industry, contribute to the Superfund. Thank you.
We go next to 443, Ann Fanizzi, Croton Watershed Clean Water Coalition.
Good afternoon. I wish to thank the representatives of the Environmental Protection Agency for this opportunity to comment on proposals to evaluate the effects of hydrofracking on the environment. But most importantly, as Dr. Theo Colburn, president of the Endocrine Disruption, has cautioned of possible contamination of essential life support systems, water, air, and soil, and causing harm to the health of humans, wildlife, domestic animals, and vegetation. Dr. Theo Colburn is one of the foremost experts on the health and environmental effects of toxic chemicals used in hydrofracking. TEDx is currently conducting studies to explore these health effects. Indeed, the EPA must go beyond simply the relationship between hydrofracking and drinking water. It must exert every effort to ascertain the health effects of the chemicals being used. Many of the chemicals found in drilling and evaporation pits are considered hazardous waste. TDX has put together a data of 944 chemicals. According to Dr. Colburn, we know a great deal about some of these chemicals, but an astounding 43% of the products that are being used, we know absolutely nothing. So we are dealing with information that we are working on that is based on a very small percentage of the products being used. She continues, no one knows exactly how much stays underground and how much is going to be coming back to the surface. So you worry about the long-term effect of that material that's staying underground because we do not understand the geology underground. And what people don't realize is that gas doesn't come out of the ground dry, it comes up wet. Our big concern is that 43% of these chemicals are endocrine disruptors. So I asked the EPA, and in conclusion, that $2 million in 2 years is grossly insufficient to resolve the problem. We need more time. How much is enough? Thank you.